Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Snow. I'm the founder and CEO of Powerful Women Rising. My company has two goals. One is to change the face of networking. I teach, speak, train, talk nonstop about how to network like a human and not like a salesy weirdo. I have found that networking is the simplest and most sustainable way to grow a business if it is done well. If you can do it in a way that is actually fun and feels good to you, but is also intentional and gets you results. And that is what I'm all about. I also run an online community for female entrepreneurs called the Powerful Women Rising Community. It is a combination of masterminds, networking, strategy, mindset, all the things. And today I am super excited that I get to share an interview with you that I did with one of the Powerful Women Rising community members, Sarah Stokes. Sarah calls herself a business breakthrough coach, but I feel like that simplifies it. She's so freaking much more. Like when we sat down to have this conversation, I was just like, I could keep talking to you forever and ever and ever and ever. She is just one of the most lovely human beings. If you watch this interview on YouTube, you will see what I mean. She just has the best energy and is such a great example of loving kindness with boundaries and knowledge of her worth. And this conversation was so fascinating. We talked about things that business owners are doing unintentionally to block their sales. And there are so many good insights in this interview that you probably have never even thought about before. And if you are someone who tends towards the side of overgiving, if you're someone like me who's like, I don't want to raise my prices because I want to be able to help everybody. If you struggle with like having a conversation with someone who can't afford your services, but you just believe so much in her and you want so badly to help her that everything in you is like, just let her do it for free or like, just let her do it for 50% off. This is the interview for you. It is so fascinating, the things that keep us from making money and also that keep us from taking our money making to the next level. All of these thoughts that we have, all of these ways that we've been conditioned. And Sarah breaks down so many of them in this interview. It's so, so good. So as I mentioned, Sarah is a business breakthrough coach. Her company is called The Juicy Good Life. And she loves to unbury world changers from the mountain of shoulds that they are suffering under. She believes that when business owners have more joy, they have energy to change the world. Love it so much. Okay, here is my interview with Sarah. And after you listen, come join me over on Instagram because we're going to be chatting more about it. And I would love to hear some of your thoughts. Hello, Sarah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I cannot wait, Melissa.
Yes, I'm super excited to talk to you this morning. So before we dive in, tell everybody a little bit about you and about what you do.
Okay, so I call myself a business breakthrough coach, and that's because I really do love seeing the breakthroughs businesswomen have. And I'm especially good at helping the overgiver, the overwhelmed woman, the open-hearted human who really wants to just make this world better through her business. And she might be like trying to do all the things and she might be neurospicy or neuromagical. But when we get to working together, she just like begins to truly love who she actually is. And we get to de-shoulding her operation so we can make room for joy. So that's what I do in the world. And it's like truly the best. So my company's called The Juicy Good Life. I'm here to help you live yours. And I like to roll up my sleeves and get to work.
I love that. We were talking before we started recording about some of the carryovers from being a dating coach and being a business coach. And that whole relationship with yourself is such a huge, huge part of both.
It's everything. So I do believe, as I've been in business 10 years with myself, I've been dating myself for 10 years in business. Our businesses, I think, are divinely sent to help us heal. Because what brings up all of our stuff? Oh, hi, growing a business. And we're going to talk about sales today. That's going to kick up all of our stuff. And
Yep.
so, yeah, you're coaching from the dating world and business world. It all, you don't check your life at the door. It just, you bring yourself to everything you do, dating or business growth or whatever.
For better
So,
or
yeah.
worse.
Yes. So us like becoming just more of who we are just helps everything.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. So we're talking about sales today. This is a huge topic, obviously. I feel like we could probably do a 6-parter on this also, but I won't hold you to that today. But this sounds like a very basic question, but I want to know your definition of sales or selling.
Well, I think just bottom line, sales is service. Now that's cliche, but what at the end of the day, you have a solution for someone. Even if you're selling something that other people might be like, well, how is art a solution? Well, it beautifies someone's life. It gives them something to appreciate, right? You are selling a solution. So I believe sales is just the energetic exchange of your solution for their resource of money, right? They say, hey, I would like to invest in what you have to offer. And you're helping them, they're helping you. It makes the world go around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Perfect. I wanted to be really clear on that definition because I think a lot of times when we're going to talk about this, some of the reasons that people, especially women, hate selling is because they have this idea in their head of like, it's taking people's money or like convincing people to give me money. And that mindset makes sales very difficult. So, can you talk a little bit about that and maybe some of the other reasons that women in particular find selling difficult?
Yes. Wow. Talk about a place where we have been conditioned to not show up. Money, right? The exchange of money, being visible. So, number one, bottom line, the stigma around sales in our own minds, whether you experience that and you have like daily evidence of it, the stigma is huge. And then there's the brain, the neurology of it all, the threat to our safety of being visible and putting yourself out there for judgment. You have two things right there that'll shut us all the way down. So, the stigma, the thing I realized as I have matured as a business owner, as I have been the woman with the knees shaking underneath the table, closing those big deals, those, everything from, Melissa, I've sold $5 like ads in my magazine, all the way up to a $250,000 contract. And they all feel the same to my nervous system. But as I've matured, I realized the stigma is because we forget we're not prey. It's not a predator prey thing, but we can easily slip into that and forget that we have our no. So when I want to help a woman sell more, because hi, your business growth depends on us showing up for sales and to have all the compassion for yourself because you're working against conditioning and stigma and brain science. So remembering that you have your no, and so do they. Because when we're in accidental predator prey vibes, which nobody means to be, we forget we can say no. So then we hide from it. We hide from being sold to and we hide from selling. So that's where that service comes back in. We just forget that we actually have a solution. And when we're selling to people who don't need our solution, it feels bad. When we're selling to people who we can actually genuinely help, it's a whole different relationship. So the stigma is one thing, shuts us right down. Then the brain science of being visible is an actual old biological cave person threat. Because if you did it wrong, you were right, exiled from the tribe is what I'm trying to say. And so being judged feels terrible to our nervous system. So how do we protect ourselves? We just don't do it. We don't show up. We don't even say the things. We hide our solution because judgment feels worse to our brain than actually selling and receiving. And then there's the third part. I help people who are givers. We're not used to receiving, and selling is receiving at a new level. It's receiving in a new way. It's tied up in some of our biggest wounding, worthiness, enoughness, imposter syndrome. We could list it all day. And so it's getting our needs met in a way that we maybe aren't used to. We're usually the ones pouring out. So sales, I mean, take your pick. Those are big reasons why we hide. And I'm here to help in some way get us beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah. With
Those
compassion.
those are huge. Like, I don't even know where to start with those three.
I know. I know. And truly, start with the one that's most real to you. What feels most alive? Is it it's the stigma and the judgment? Or is it the receiving? Does that feel charged to you? Then start there and just add the compassion. Like, of course. I think the best words, and this was from one of my therapists, she said the words, "Of course you feel that way." And it was like the world opened to me. So if I can impart that to somebody who's like, yeah, I didn't even realize I don't like being in a conversation about sales because I forgot I have my no and that they have their no. And it makes no difference. It doesn't mean anything about me if this isn't the solution for them. And to just add compassion and say, of course we feel this way. Of course.
Yeah.
And being gentle with ourselves.
Absolutely. And understanding that, I think sometimes when we look at other people who are doing sales, it looks very easy for them. And, obviously we all know on social media, we're seeing like the very tip of everyone's iceberg. We don't see anything that's happening underneath, but we forget that when we're scrolling and we see other people selling, and it feels like I am the only person who has so much mind drama about sales, right? So I think just remembering this is how we were created, unfortunately, many, many years ago in our caves, right? Where it was not safe to leave the cave. And so you had to just stay where you were or else. And you really were like, rejection really was a life or death thing. And we can intellectually tell ourselves all day long, like, that's not a thing anymore. You're safe. Everything's fine. Just go sell your stuff. But we're also not all born knowing how to regulate our nervous system either.
No.
And that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it really is. And the thing that helps, I mean, aside from actual nervous system regulation tools, like do all the things, orient or give yourself a butterfly hug, those are real. And yes, please, before a sales conversation, I want you to ground in the way that feels really good for you because, yeah, you're going to show up differently. Make it a safe environment for your nervous system because it's not naturally. So before I do anything, I'm oiling up or I'm putting my bare feet on the grass. And then tactically, and this is maybe getting ahead of myself, but tactically remember you have a solution. And so a lot of us are wired to be nurturers. You have a solution. You have a way to nurture someone. And our brain thinks we're talking to thousands of people, but really we're talking to one human at a time. And that can bring you back to more safety in your nervous system. Oh, I'm just talking to one human who actually needs this. And what if they woke up today? I like to say I help reduce suffering and amplify joy. What if they woke up today suffering? And that usually gets me out of my own brain and my own head and gets me out of my own way to show up for them. And it is usually enough to get me going and to be like, okay, the people who this isn't for are maybe going to judge me, but I'm here for that person who woke up today needing what I have to offer.
Yeah.
And that usually helps. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to have the very similar conversation with myself before sales calls when I was doing dating and relationship coaching, because that would feel very stressful. Like, you don't know what the person's going to say. You don't know what is going to happen. You don't know what their objections are going to be like. But I would always ask myself before the call, like, what if this call she has with you today is the thing that not only changes her life, but it's also going to change the life of her future husband. It's going to change the life of her child, right? Like, how differently is her child going to grow up now with a mom who understands and models what a healthy relationship is? And how is that going to carry over for generations and generations? I mean, not that I'm so great, but that the work that I'm facilitating with her is going to have that impact. I tell people that too with networking events. People get so stressed out about going to networking events. And I always say, Ask yourself if you knew that your next best friend was in that room, or if you knew that your next client was in that room, would you go? Of course, the answer is yes. So go and
And guess
go
where your
with
next
that
best friend
energy.
is?
Right.
Yeah. And that's where they are. They are
Yeah.
there. And they're
Yeah.
just
And go
waiting for
with that
you.
energy. I think that's huge when it comes to sales too, right? Like we know what it feels like to be on the other end of a sales call with somebody who is like, oh my gosh, I just raised my prices. I'm really stressed out about that. I don't know if it's worth it. I feel really bad asking this person to pay this much money, but I really need money and I haven't made a sale in 9 years. Like they don't actually say that, but you can feel that energy as
Mhm.
opposed to the energy of somebody on a sales call that is like, listen, I have this service. It's amazing. It's going to change your life if you're ready. This is the investment. If you're not ready, that's great too.
Yep. Do you want this? Yeah, totally. And I know that this analogy is so different, but it's so true. Like, would we ever be like meeting a surgeon who's going to do an operation on us? And if they're wishy-washy about, I don't know if you can afford this, and I haven't done that many of these, we'd be like, heck no.
Right.
So just find the places you do feel rooted and confident and work from there. Because yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
all in our heads. We're
Mm-hmm.
all the person selling the offer, the person buying the offer, we're all freaking out in some way. So to just open up that heart and say, this is where I'm really good. Would you like me to help you? Or this is where my product is so amazing. Would you like it? And we don't have to have the rest figured out. Just find the one nugget where you're so solid, and that just changes that energy. You're so right. We can totally feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that you work a lot with women who are givers and nurturers and caretakers, and we just want to love everybody and help everybody and save everybody. And that I think poses its own unique set of challenges when it comes to sales. And I don't know if you have this experience, but a lot of my clients struggle with feeling like a bad person for charging, right?
Mhm.
Or like she really needs this thing, but she can't afford it. I
Mhm.
should just give it to her because I know it will help her, right? And if I don't, what does that say about me?
Mhm.
Have you had that experience and how do you help people with that?
All the time. So
Mm-hmm.
normal. And what I say to that is when we overgive, we are creating premeditated resentment, and it's actually not helping them. So if you think about fast forward, 5 months, if you guys have a service client relationship and you, out of what seemed like a really good place, overpromised or, undercharged, didn't charge at all, you're not showing up in the same way as you would show up if you're in full alignment, no resentment. So it is worth it. Now, your brain may not be on board for a while, but it is actually in their highest good for you to show up truly in your integrity, truly in your full alignment, no resentment. And for people who are like, what is she talking about? Full alignment, no resentment. You can't show up if you are struggling financially and your brain's busy thinking, I'm not getting paid enough to even serve this client anymore. Then what are you even doing for them? You're distracted. They're wondering what's going on, or maybe they're not even getting the full benefits. And in the end, it's a lose lose. So to have that sweaty 10-minute conversation on the front end, that if they truly cannot afford it, that is actually not in the highest good for you to come down on your price because you have to be supported so you can hold that energy and hold the space and the container that you promised them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, if we can fast forward and see how will this actually not be in service to her or me or them or me, that's when we usually can work through that squirm. The savior thing is real. That's old wiring too. And for us to be lovingly onto ourselves about how, and I'm a white female, right? And I do not pretend to know all the things, but saving has been baked into the DNA of just, if you want to get into all of that, like we we default go there. But in the end, it's actually not in the service to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you then can't get there, I ask the next question when I'm helping somebody like overcome this. What free resources do you already have out in the world? And a lot of times it's so much and we forget. So if that person actually factually cannot do it at this time, you can still serve them. Your free resources, a referral to somebody who's maybe a better fit financially for them, bless somebody else's business. There's a lot of ways to move through this. And then, of course, just keep walking yourself back home to what is true. If I don't have any money to support my mission, there is no mission. So in the end, it's a disservice to all my future clients if I undercharge for so long that I can't even make this business work. And that's when my heart just breaks. And I want to invite people to say, what's the long game? No money, no mission. So you're either resenting, you're shutting down, they're not even receiving the gift that is your service at full price. Mm-hmm. So it's a lose-lose.
Yeah.
Let's find the other. The win-win is way better for everyone.
Yeah. No money, no mission. That's good. You have a lot of good little nuggets.
Well, I learned that from the first CEO I ever worked for in business. And he ran a big nonprofit. And he said, Sarah, no money, no mission, because they could. The math just isn't math if you overgive. Mm-hmm. And then nobody gets the gift that is your business and nobody's helped. And think of, you talked about the ripple in the family. If you're stressed chronically because of money, because you're not charging an aligned amount, your whole world suffers. And then what are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing? So, yeah, I just invite people to work through that squirm.
Yeah, that's really good. Why do you think that selling feels so sleazy to people? Is it the programming and this idea that especially as women, who are you to even ask for that?
Whoa, talk about, I could get off on a page.
This might be episode number 12.
It might be. Sleazy is a thought. Do we want to keep that active? I mean, we can thank the media for poor used car salesmen across the world have gotten the worst rap. But then we've applied the old, just think of any movie where you saw the stereotypical sleazy car salesman. They were out to not serve you. They were out for themselves. Mm-hmm. And yet then we've just applied it like a nice coat of paint to everything we've ever done. It's just not true. So ask yourself, is that even true? Am I in any way actually sleazy here? And you might find something that isn't cool. And we're going to knock that all the way off. If for some reason we're acting in a way that isn't cool and we're actually not in service and we're in taker energy, just stop. Get rooted back into why do you do this thing you do? Why do you create this thing you have? And when we're rooted back into the thing we actually got into business to do and help people with, sleazy just doesn't even have room. We don't even have room for sleazy. Mm-hmm. So that is possibly just a thought that's just no longer serving us. You can look at all the examples in your life where you feel like it's true, where people are sleazy, and just say, is that me? Am I showing up like that? And it's probably no. And then just ask yourself, what is true? What is true about the way I serve and sell? And maybe you're going to find yourself like, oh, I'm hiding actually for fear of being called sleazy. And then let's go ahead and just myth bust it. Who in your life would actually call you sleazy? If you're truly not sleazy, where are you? Who's the they that would call you sleazy that you're worried about? And on any planet, are they your ideal client? On any planet, are they anyone you'd want in your circle? No. So then you go, oh, okay, that's just me keeping myself safe. And oh, I've forgotten that I'm actually here to serve in this way that is my business. Is that an answer?
Yeah. I mean, I think intention is the biggest differentiator. And that's what I talk about when I talk about networking too, right? Like if you're going to a networking event with the intention of growing your network with the right people, you're going to show up very differently and you're going to have a very different experience than if you're showing up to a networking event like, oh, I got to meet as many people as I can. I got to collect a certain number of business cards and I got to find somebody who wants to buy my thing. Like that's a very different energy. And so I love what you're saying about doing some of the prep work before you get on a sales call so that you are in that mindset of like, I'm here to serve. I have something amazing, whether it's a product or a service that can really help this person. And I'm just here to share the details of it with her. I'm just here to share with her how it can help her, what it would look like for her to become a client, and to help her make a decision if she wants my help making a decision. And that's it. That's going to feel very different, not only to the person that you are on a sales call with, but it's going to feel very different to you too than if you'd showed up to that call with like, oh my God, I know because I've done this. The sales call where you're in the space of like, if I don't make some money right freaking now, I'm going to die.
Yes. And yeah, that's
They don't
real.
go well. Spoiler
No,
alert.
no, they don't. And it's real. Like we don't want to pretend like sometimes we're showing up with an empty bank account and that feels terrible. And you're only going to get more empty bank account. So my plea is when you're in that, oh crap, money energy, we got to do 10x the grounding, 10x the like mental prep work to get our own brain out of scarcity and into, oh yeah, truly the way home for all of us, my bank account and their life is for me to be rooted back in the truth of what it is I do for them. Mm-hmm. And it is not easy when you're opening that app and your whole like body is shaking. I have been there. I get it. And it's kind of like drunk driving. Don't do it. Don't do it. You do not want to get behind the wheel of a car when you're hammered. Please. And same with if you've just opened that bank account and now you think you're going to go and have a great sales experience, don't do it. Now, this is not permission to just never do it again. You're going to sober right up, right? To use this analogy, you then all right, I'm going to milk it. Sober up, get grounded. Really, we're not fit for sales at that time.
Drink some water, eat a cheeseburger,
go on a walk, hug
wait
a tree,
6 hours.
Do your thing, right? All the tricks, kind of the same idea. But how often are we walking around truly under the influence of scarcity and trying to sell? All the time. And I'm getting goosebumps of like compassion. Been there. Ground. Our brain says we don't have enough time. That is the opposite of true. It's just we're multiplying by 0 when we show up like that. Mm-hmm. So if you guys, $5 in your bank account, it's not going to magically turn into $1 million if we're under the influence of scarcity. So take the extra time. Look at your client testimonials if you have them. Look at a nice comment on your Facebook page. Get back under the influence of abundance and then show up. So if you have a 9:00 call, do not open that bank account app if you are tending to go to scarcity, right? Just don't do it. Get yourself rooted and grounded and then show up. Mm-hmm. And that will help a lot.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously showing up in the scarcity mindset or in this like desperation is one of the ways that we're blocking sales. And maybe we don't actually know that we're doing it. Sometimes we do. Other times I think we're like, no, I got this. Like, yes, that just happened, but I'm good.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things that you see women in particular doing that they might not realize are blocking their sales?
Okay. We talked about already when we forget it's for them and not for us. Yes, we receive the energetic exchange of money, but when we forget who it's actually for, it's not for us. That's number one. Then when we're under the influence of scarcity, absolutely. When we're in our bank accounts, not in service. And then when we are not, and this one's sneaky, and I love calling it out, we're actually not a heck yes on our own offer. We do not show up for sales. We kink off that flow. Mm-hmm. And somebody will be like, what are you talking about? It's a great offer. Okay, I'm the should free lady. A lot of times I see people are not selling because they know their subconscious is so wise. They know maybe it's not priced to the point of actually being supportive and sustainable. Maybe they've added in all these like bonuses because they heard a webinar one time and they don't actually want to do any of them. So your innate wisdom will protect you by keeping you from selling any of it. So if you're like getting goose eggs all the time, let's revisit your offer. Are you actually a heck yes on your own offer? Find the shoulds in there, radically erase them. I want to like, let's get crazy on our de-shoulding, because when you are like energetically a match for your own offer, you show up in a whole different way. And you're like, this is awesome. It's so different than, oh my gosh, can I even do that? And we talk a lot about imposter syndrome in women in business. And half the time I'm curious if it's really just we've overloaded our offer with stuff we don't even want to do. And then we're feeling like an imposter because we're just actually not an energetic match for it. This is not our hell yes. So why would we want to sell it to anybody? We don't actually want to do it. Or it's not priced at a place where it's an easy yes. So that's a sneaky one that I think once the boxes are checked on our neat little offer and we've made the website or the landing page, we don't think we can go back and edit. This is your invitation. If you're not feeling like you want to show up for sales, let's look at it.
Absolutely.
Are you in love with this thing? Are you like, this is going to be easy for me? Not that it's always easy, but this is an easy yes for me to show up in the world and do. Then watch how your sales change.
Yeah. We were talking about it before this call with the Powerful Women Rising community. And I was telling you, I launched it last January and I thought like, this is going to be so great. We're going to do this, this, this. And if they sign up, then they get this. And we're also going to do this and this thing. And I was like, it's going to be so amazing. And I really like truly believed that. And then I started with like 31, I think, founding members. They all paid for 6 months up front. At the end of the 6 months, I'll be real here, people. 3 people continued on of the 31. And I was like, okay, something did not go the way that it was supposed to go, clearly. And so I did. I had to go back and look at that offer and like what I was including in the community, which was a lot of stuff that I thought, oh, I should do this. I should do this. I saw a webinar that said you should have a X, Y, and Z bonus. That's why I laughed when you said that. I was like, oh, call out. Thanks. And like, there was just so much stuff in there that like, I didn't want to do. They didn't really want, like, even if I had done it in like so much joy and love and excitement, they still were like, this is not really what we came for. And so like completely revamped the offer and relaunched the community in a totally different way, just thinking about what is it that they're telling me that they want and what is it that I am loving doing. Those were the only 2 questions. And it has been so much more successful since then for a lot of the reasons that you're talking about, right? Like even when I show up to the calls, there's not one call in the Powerful Women Rising community that I feel like, oh, I have to go do this call. Like every time I'm like, yes, it's Thursday. We're doing this. Like, I can't wait to see my girls and I can't wait for this call. What are we going to talk about? And like, it's just, it takes on a momentum that it didn't have before.
Yes. I'm like clapping and cheering over here. Totally. You lived it real time. And yeah, listening to your clients too. The thing is, we've been told the customer's always right. The second part was so powerful for me to hear you say, because you had to want it too.
Yeah.
My clients might want me to do marketing stuff that I don't do anymore. It's just a no, because I know we sabotage our shoulds somehow, whether it's re-ups in your beautiful group, or if it's, we don't show up to sell, we always find a way to kind of sabotage and blow up those shoulds because they are not meant to be there. They're just not meant to be there. And that people pleaser in us, takes one to know one. I will call myself out for this. We think because we can do the thing, then we should do the thing, right? Just because I can read you your 10 o'clock news does not mean I should be doing that anymore. I'm really good. And so are you at a lot of things we do not need to be doing anymore because we don't want to.
100%.
Yeah. So there has to be a want to, or the energy is going to fizzle out.
Yeah.
And sales takes all the energy. So let's just eradicate what isn't working, and not from a place of who says this isn't working for me. Check in with yourself, check in on what are your clients resonating with, and go. It's not the webinar. I do webinars, but I only want people to take what resonates and leave the rest. Because we will drown in shoulds in business. That's what keeps us exhausted, under earning, and kind of bitter in the end.
1,000%.
Not helpful. Yeah.
Yes. So you've touched on some of these already, in terms of like things that people can start doing right now to help them if they feel stressed out about sales, if they feel like gross about sales, or they just know like something isn't working because I'm not making sales. You talked about the grounding, just like feeling your feet on the ground and reminding yourself, like, this is where I am. I'm safe. Everything's good. I think even just like taking a couple deep breaths can make a huge difference sometimes. You talked about doing, it has a technical name. I can't remember what it is.
I can't remember either, but
self-hug.
Yep. Giving yourself a hug.
Self-love.
Yes.
What are some other things? Is there anything else that you recommend that people can start doing like right now that will help them to increase their confidence and start to enjoy selling more?
Absolutely. Thank you. If I could just insert a mental checklist and write it down, if that helps you. First of all, you are going to ground. Then I want you to visualize it going so well. So many of my most successful moments in sales have come because I took 4 seconds to imagine that moment where they're like, where do I sign? I can't wait to work with you. And this has gone from every kind of sale I've ever made. It helps. And it's not just woo. It's literally activating your brain to say, this is the outcome I would like. And now it doesn't take away their sovereignty. Don't worry about it. Just if it's a no in the end, it does not matter. It's the next one. Just do that. Next, please don't make it a no mean anything about you or your product or service. You're practicing. You are always looking for that ideal client, and it really doesn't mean anything about you. So put that, like, I will not use this as a weapon against myself, on your checklist. And then tactically, one of the best tools I can truly ask that your listeners do is make a top 10 list before any sales call, and just have it on a sticky note by your computer or wherever you are. The top 10 ways their life is made better when they buy from you. And this is everything. And now I've done lots of these over the years. I use this all the time in my own life. My clients use it. And your brain will protest, especially around like the third or fourth. It's going to be like, I don't have anything else. That's just not true. Everything counts. It all works. You talked about the ripple effect of your coaching. You have at least 10 ways that you make their life better. And when you know this list, your heart changes. And it cannot be in anything but service, because who are we to prevent those beautiful ripples in the world? So that top 10 list is huge. Plus, I used to own a marketing agency. This is your content like chart right here. Take one a day and riff on it. It's so beautiful for your business, but your brain's not going to want to do it. So just know that, watch the resistance, love yourself through it, and say, this will make a huge impact on the sales in my business. And talk to one person at a time. That's the last thing I want to say is, when we think of social media or a networking meeting, we're really only talking to one human at a time. And it's so much more impactful when we do that versus like trying to broad brush the whole social media universe. It's actually just one human looking at our phone at a time. One human in that networking meeting that's really magnetized to you. And that calms you all the way down. One human at a time. That's how businesses are built. One at a time. So that would be my list for you.
That's so good. That's so good. I'm going to make my own top 10 list.
Please do. Yes.
I wrote it down.
Yes. It's really transformative. It's a game
Yeah.
changer. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. If people want to connect with you further, I want to keep talking to you for like 3 more hours, but
Let's
I
do
can't. But if anybody else wants to connect with you for 3 more hours, no, just kidding. She has boundaries. She has her no. What is the best way for them to get in touch with you to learn more about all the fabulous things that you do?
Okay. So I am mostly on Facebook. That's my front porch. All the others are kind of a should. So I just own it unapologetically. I am on all the socials, the Juicy Good Life. You can find me there, but I am most myself and at home at the Juicy Good Life on Facebook. And that's where you can really just feel less alone in business. It's a place for you to feel like you're talking to your front porch best friend too. And yeah, that's where I can invite you to work with me if you feel called. If I have that solution for you, there's my resonant sales pitch. I have de-shoulded my operation. I am not going to offer you anything that I don't fully want to do that is in the highest service for the women who are meant to work with me too. So
yeah. I love it. Awesome. I will put the link for your Facebook in the show notes so everyone can connect with you. And thank you again. You're just such a lovely human. We love having you in the Powerful Women Rising community and appreciate you sharing all of your, not all of, a tiny, tiny bit of your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. If you love this podcast, you can support me and the podcast by subscribing, following, joining me on Instagram, sharing this episode or another episode with somebody that you know would love it, and most of all, by leaving us a review. You can leave a review on Apple or on YouTube, and by doing so, you help those platforms know this is a great podcast and you should show it to more people. So I would love it if you would take a couple minutes and support us in that way, and I look forward to chatting with you again next week.